Madam, someone raised his hand, so I think you can.
Hello, madam.
Yes.
Madam, please, good evening. This is Collins. Um, I think the last time we actually had a class was
Yes,
last.
who is talking? Good
This is
evening,
Collins, please,
Collins.
madam. Madam, I believe you are
Yes,
doing.
Collins, I'm listening. I'm very fine. Yourself?
Madam, I'm also managing. Per
Okay.
what you asked yesterday, last week or the last time that we met with you, we were actually treating introduction to moral and ethics, but because we were having a challenge with the network, it was like class wasn't very futile. So I think we had a little discussion about what moral was, what ethics was. We looked at some few components of moral and ethics before finally, I think the class dissolved, unfortunately. So, yeah. But personally, some of us decided to go on the portal, the Moodle, and download some of the materials that was placed there to read ahead. So we were just
Okay. All right.
looking to.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
So we'll
welcome, madam.
just go on with today's lecture. That's fine. So I'll share the slides and then we'll start the class. So today we are looking at the scope and sources of morals and ethics. So as Collins briefed us, we were able to go through, I don't know to what extent, but we went through the introductory to morals and ethics. That's the definition, the similarities of morals and ethics. And I uploaded the lecture slides as well as the audio on the Moodle. And so I presuppose that, yes, Vitus, your hand is up.
Yes, madam. On that very day, you were having a technical problem at your end, so you decided that the class rep should contact you and you reschedule the class. So since then,
Okay.
we didn't hear anything from you. It was the same thing as you
All
just
right.
started. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. But I uploaded the audio on your Moodle. How many of you were able to access it? Please, was any one of you able? Okay, so Colin said he did. Who else was able to access the audio on the Moodle? Can I see by hand those who were able to access the audio file as well as the slides? Okay, Francis, Collins, who else? Emmanuel, Jerome. Okay, all right, that's fine. Thank you. So once you've been able to access, even if you've not been able to listen, I know you will listen when you have time. So we can go on with today's lecture. Is that okay?
Yes, madam.
All right, thank you. You can put down your hands now, please. Okay, so please put down your hand and let me start the lecture. I want all hands down so that when there is an issue and somebody puts up the hand, I'll know there is an issue. Okay, thank you. And all microphones off. Collins, please mute your microphone. Okay. All right, so for today, we are going to look at the scope and the sources of morals and ethics. Scope and sources of morals and ethics. Now, with all the other courses or science or sciences, let's talk about like your business courses, chemistry, biology, whatever subject or whatever course. The content of the course is what it is. from the inception of the course till now, the content has been what it is. So for instance, if we want to look at the definition of computers, it is what it is right from the start till now. If we want to look at the definition of atom in the subject of biology, it's been what it is from the beginning till now. However, when we look at morals and ethics, we say that moral is about the content and the consequences of human actions. So morals and ethics are not static sciences. They are about human actions, what human beings do, and the consequences of our actions. And ethics are not static. They are probable to change with time. And because of that, we say that morals and ethics is the bedrock of our daily lives and every human institution, because it is made up of the actions of human beings and the consequences of actions. And because every human institution is embedded or is occupied by human beings, we say that morals and ethics is the bedrock or the foundation for every human institution. So if any institution decides to give a blind eye to issues concerning morals and ethics, that institution will collapse, because it will mean we are not paying attention to the actions that people are doing, the behaviors of people, and the consequences of these behaviors. And so that human institution will collapse. And because of this, societies have traditions and customs that they seek the common good of everyone in that society. So every society has its traditions and customs, and this society requires all the members embedded or occupied in that society, be it an organization, be it an institution. They expect their inhabitants to abide by this tradition. So individuals residing in every society are expected to conform to the traditions and customs in order to meet societal good. So because the human actions are the foundations of the society, society in attempt to safeguard its existence have come up with certain traditions and customs that they expect their inhabitants to abide by in order to safeguard their existence. So abiding by the various traditions and customs of the society lead the individual to develop what we call principles of life. So you belong to a particular society. That society says we do A, B, C, D. And as an inhabitant of that society, you are required to abide by it. So you do A, you do B, you do C. As time goes on, over time, as you practice this, it becomes a part of you and it becomes your principle. So for instance, you come from Kofi Chrome, or you are in the BIT evening class. I have the audio is already on the Moodle, so don't worry about the recording. I already have the audio there, so you can go and download it, okay? Someone is asking that I record it. I have put the audio there already, so you can download it when you are free. So as part of the moral and ethics class, as a member of the moral and ethics class, we have constituted that the class starts at exactly 7:30. So at 7:30, the class starts. That is the tradition of that class. So everybody logs onto the class at 7:30. That is what we abide by. And so for a whole semester of about 3 months, because we consistently do this, it becomes a part of you that every Wednesday at 7:30. If you are not careful, whether you have a class or not, you may be tempted to go and log on to your Zoom, because you may think, as for moral and ethics, every Wednesday at 7:30, we go on to the Zoom to start our class. And that is how we form principles of our daily lives. So because we consciously abide by these self-imposing principles, it becomes the source of morality. So as an individual, you come from Kofi Chrome, throw rubbish around in the community or in your surroundings. So everybody in Kofi Chrome, do not throw rubbish around. So as part of your principle, when you make rubbish, you put it at the right place. You don't litter it around. Because you have done this over and over and over again, it becomes a moral standard for you. So everywhere you go, littering or throwing rubbish around is something that you frown upon, because it's a principle you have lived with for a very long time. So that is how, as individuals, we form our principles of life or our moral standards. Now we'll move on to look at the scope or the sources of morality. And we say that there are 5 main sources of morality. We have religion, we have culture, we have various propounders who have come up with certain standards that guide or that builds moral values. And some of these propounders are Rene Descartes, who built on the fulfillment for common good. We have Thomas Hobbes, who built on the fulfillment of need for peace. We have Immanuel Kant, who built on the inner moral sense. So we'll go on to see what each of these, how we build our morals on each of these. So culture as a source of moral standard. We define culture as the pattern of behaviors and values that identifies a group of people. So for every group of people, they have their specific things that identifies them, that immediately you see these characteristics about the individual, you know that this person belongs to this class of people, this society, or this organization. So for instance, if you see a gentleman in white short sleeve shirt, in black trouser, with his badge, his name inscribed on a badge on his chest, you quickly know that this person is a Latter-day Saint. It is their identity, their dressing is their identity, so it is their culture. That is how they dress. If you see somebody fishing on the sea, you quickly know that if this person is not a Ga, then he's a Fanti, because it identifies them. So culture are patterns of behaviors and ideas or symbols that identifies a group of people, and it is passed on from the older generation to the younger generation. So culture is socialized. We socialize our children into the culture that we belong to. The culture of a society determines what is right and wrong, or what is acceptable and unacceptable. So per our culture determines acceptable behavior and unacceptable behavior. So the culture and tradition of a society becomes ingrained in our consciousness. So because we belong to that society and we practice the culture over and over and over, it is our identity, it is what we do. It becomes part of us. So consciously or unconsciously, we find ourselves acting in that manner or behaving in that manner. If you look at our Nigerian brothers and sisters, you know how they greet. They don't greet standing like we do. they greet. Please, just a minute. Sorry, please, I'm back. So I was saying that if you look at our Nigerian brothers and sisters, when they bow a little, this has become consciousness in the sense that no matter where they are, when they are greeting, they do that. Whether they are in Ghana or they are in Nigeria, they still do that when they are greeting. And this is how our culture gets ingrained in our consciousness. And once it becomes so, it forms the basis of our moral principles. So our moral principles or our moral standards are formed from the practices that we take from our culture, which we practice day in, day out, and making it part of our lives. So we go on further to say that culture is dynamic because it changes over time. And therefore, moral codes are also redrafted or altered to suit the changing trends of culture. So I always give this example. In our Ghanaian culture or society, you know, when you meet somebody, exchanging pleasantries is very important. So we hug, we shake hands. When you meet a relative or anybody, you hug the person, you shake the person's hands. Then came COVID. Things had to change. So that culture had to change. So now when we meet, we don't shake hands anymore because the situation or the circumstances at the time demanded that we changed our way of doing things. And because of that, when you meet somebody and you just wave the person, unlike before, when the person will come and ask that, do you have a problem with me? Why do you meet me and just wave without giving a handshake? Now that has become acceptable. So that moral standard has been changed or altered in order to suit the trend or the changing trend in our current society. We move on to look at the fulfillment of need for peace by Thomas Hobbes. And Thomas, in his time, experienced the effect of war, and this led him to formulate certain guiding principles for moral and ethics. So Thomas reigned between the period of 1588 and 1679. And during his time, there were a lot of wars and social vices. And because of this, he thought through the situations and his experiences and came up with certain standards and principles which he believes societies should be guided by. So according to Thomas, every individual is urged to act, or our actions are based on our desires and aversions. Aversions meaning things you want to avoid. So every human action, according to Thomas Hobbes, is based on our desires. So if I am hungry, I will do everything within my power to get food to eat. If I want to pass my exam, if I have not learned and it is time for exam and I want to pass, I will do everything possible. You find students sending messages to their lecturers. They will attempt to send foreign materials to the exam hall. He will do everything within his power to try to pass the exam because of the desire to pass. So all his actions are geared towards passing the exam. On the other hand, we also act in order to avoid certain things that we don't want to happen to us. So if I don't want to be disgraced, I will do everything within my power to avoid being disgraced. And according to Thomas Hobbes, we do all these things for the need of self-preservation or survival of the fittest. So I'll do everything within my power to ensure that I have secured my position. I have secured the position of my children. I have secured the position or the safety of the people that I love. So the actions of man are entirely based on the world we find ourselves in. In other words, our environment influences our actions. So the environment in which we find ourselves influences how we act. So if we go to a place to buy food, we get there and there is so much chaos. Everybody is striving to be the one to be served. Immediately you get there, you also join the hustle and try to struggle to get served. On the other hand, if you go to another place and realize that there is a very orderly queue, everyone is in the queue and you wait for your turn to be served. When you go, you won't cross the queue and go to the front that, as for me, I want to be served. Immediately you go, you also go and join the queue. So you realize that our environment or the environment in which we find ourselves influences our actions. So therefore, according to Thomas, if human beings are allowed to continually seek or satisfy their self-interest, they'll continually hurt other people. And they will do this through theft, through assault, and other social vices. So Thomas is saying that because of the need for man to satisfy his own needs, if we leave man to act according to his desires, he will act without thinking about the consequences of his actions on his fellow man. And this will result in theft and assault and other social vices, which will collapse the society. If humans are made to live within certain boundaries, it will be impossible to hurt each other, and this will bring about peace. So Thomas is proposing that in order to prevent human beings from hurting each other, we should set boundaries within which we can act. And how do we do this? He proposes that to achieve this, the decision to act should be transferred to a sovereign power. So we should not leave individuals to act by themselves. However, what to do at what time should be transferred to a sovereign power under a form of social contract. So we should all agree to give that power to a sovereign power who will determine what you should do at what time in the form of a social contract. And this is manifested in laws and governance. So now, if you are hungry, you can't just go into somebody's farm and harvest the person's plantain just because you think you are hungry and therefore you want food to eat. Your actions will be determined by the social contract. So if you are hungry, you can only harvest plantain that is in your farm. This is the social contract. The sovereign power, therefore, has a responsibility of mediating all disputes and actions of members of the society. So if you are hungry and you decide to go and harvest plantain in another person's farm, this sovereign power will come in and mediate and determine the consequences of your actions and merit to you the result or the punishment that is due you. So Thomas Hobbes is saying that human beings have the tendency to act to satisfy their personal need. And so we shouldn't allow them to act by themselves. Rather, there should be a sovereign power who will determine how, when, and what you should do at different times and different environments through what we call the social contract. And once you, yes, Andrew, your hand is up.
Good evening, madam.
Good evening.
Thank you for the lecture. So, what Thomas Hobbes is saying is that we should give a social contract to a higher power. For now, I want to ask a question. What happens if the people we have handed the social power to are now abusing or acting in a particular way by what Thomas Hobbes is speaking against, that if we allow the human self, we will do things to collapse the society. Now, if the higher power itself is now behaving the same way, how can we go about it in this particular case? Thank you.
Thank you. This is a very intelligent question. But as I mentioned in the last, for us to have a smooth flow, I was going to look at the question. Let's go through the entire we can contact and address all your questions and contributions. Is that okay?
Madam,
is that okay?
Please, we didn't hear you, please.
I was saying that in order for us to, I was saying your question is very intelligent. However, I'm suggesting in order for us to have a smooth flow for the lecture, not all questions and contributions. Let us go through the lecture, finish it, then we'll come and address all questions.
Okay, madam.
Is that okay?
That's okay.
Yes.
Fine. Thank you.
Yes, madam.
Yeah, so please note it. Let me finish the lecture and we'll come back to it. So Thomas is saying that we should have these sovereign authorities in place who will determine human actions. And once you flout the contract that has been stipulated or put in place, they will merit the sanctions and punishment that is due you. Now we go on to look at what René Descartes also proposes as the source of moral principles. Now, according to René, the ultimate ethics is embedded in virtue or good character, and virtue is demonstrated in truth, honesty, courage, love, or integrity. Virtue is demonstrated in character. And René Descartes is saying that virtue or morals and ethics is embedded in good character. Therefore, the desire and the willpower to do good must be driven by your virtue, or your desire to abide by moral principles must be driven by your virtue or by good character. So the good character in an individual itself should be able to propel that individual to act on good moral principles. So for instance, if you know that you love, or if you want to exhibit love, you don't go stealing your neighbor's item. If you want to exhibit courage, you don't pull your phone to video an accident when indeed there are casualties that need to be taken care of. So the virtue in you, the good character in you, should propel your moral judgment. And therefore, our total actions must contribute to the total good of the society. So because your actions are driven or must be driven by, it must be in line with the total good of the society and not your individual needs. We must therefore have respect and passion for each other. So if we are acting out good character, if our actions are being geared towards exhibiting good character, and by that we are ensuring total the common good of the members of the society, then in that way we build our principles or our actions by showing respect and passion for each other. So all our actions are influenced by respect and passion for members of the society. This is what Rene Descartes is proposing. Then we come to Immanuel Kant, who bases his argument on the inner moral law. And according to him, ethics are organized around the principles of respecting humanity. So the ethics of a society, organization, the morals of a society or an organization is geared towards respecting humanity, sustaining the society. Therefore, one should only act in accordance with rules that hold for everyone. So if you want to respect society, then your actions should respect or hold everybody within the environment in which you are acting, should accept what you are doing. Immanuel Kant goes on to say that because every society has a god or deity sort of whom they ascribe their worship to, your desire for free will should lead one to act rationally and in accordance with a universal moral law, that is respect for humanity. So we all have our various religions or spiritualities. And because spirituality in itself is geared towards ensuring human good, our actions should be geared by this act or this thought or this moral, and therefore ensuring that for every individual, every action or every behavior that you act out is geared towards ensuring that your fellow human accept your actions, or it will serve the good, the common good of your fellow human being. In conclusion, we want to say that morals and ethics, no matter how you decide to look at it, is geared towards ensuring human good. So we have looked at the scope of morals. We have looked at different propounders of the sources or how morals and ethics are formed. And if you listen to all the arguments, it is all geared towards or all directed at ensuring human good and sustaining the society. However, if you look at our modern trends or current trends, there have been certain changes in our society or environment that have affected or impacted on our moral judgment. And one of them is emerging concepts. So certain concepts come up and they influence our judgment. They influence how we decide, we act, and how we behave. The most recent one I can use is with our e-levy. Now, e-levy has been passed. Whether you like it or not, it has been passed. Please mute your microphone. Whether we like it or not, e-levy has been passed. So if you carry out certain financial electronic transactions, you'll be taxed. Now, how is this going to affect our judgment? Previously, if I owed somebody money, I could easily say that, let me send this money to this person through Momo. Please, if you don't mute your microphone, I'll take you off. if you owed somebody money, you could easily transfer the money to the person through Momo. However, now, if I'm going to do a Momo, I am going to think not twice, but thrice. Do I really want to do this? If I owe somebody, instead of sending the person's money to him or her, I'll rather keep it. If I meet you, I'll give it to you. So you see how this new concept will or is going to influence our judgments. So I will not care whether you need your money or not. I won't send it to you for me to be charged 3 times what I'm supposed to be charged. I'll keep the money. If I need you, then I give it to you. Meanwhile, your debtor also needs his or her money. So these are some of the concepts or changes in concepts that affect our thought processes and our moral judgments. Another modern concept or current trend that affects our moral judgment is scarcity. Because resources are scarce, everybody wants to strive to achieve or to gain what they want for themselves. Especially in Ghana, we can cite the issue of land. We know how the issue of land acquisition is, especially in Accra. A chief, a very old man whom you expect that should be of very high moral standard, will not mind taking your money and going to 3-4 people taking money for the same piece of land, because he knows that the asset is scarce. Everybody needs a land to buy. So if you are not careful and you think that, oh, this is a chief, he's of high reputation, you'll be duped. Another concept or another dynamic is capitalism, the need to maximize profit. So everybody wants to maximize their profit or optimize their outcomes or their returns, and they will do everything possible. So now, if you want to buy honey and you are not careful, you buy something else that is not honey, and the individual does not care the implications of this action on his fellow man. Why? Because he wants to maximize his profit. Every now and then we get videos about how market women are treating the goods or the food items that we buy from the market. Why? Because they want to maximize their profit. So they don't care about the environment. They don't care about how they treat the food. They just want to get the food on the market and sell. Another is technology. Because of technology now, people can do all manner of things. I can stay in my corner here, you don't know my house. I can stay here, do an audio, and immediately push it on social media, and it will begin to trend to disgrace a fellow person or another human being. And previously, it wasn't so. Sending information across alone was a problem. But now, because of advances in technology, we are able to go this far by even recording another person, taking a video of another person's nakedness and posting it on social media just to satisfy our personal need. So these are all actions or new dynamics that have affected our moral judgments. But from the discussion we have had so far, you want to ask yourself, what ideologies, what concepts informs your conscience and your actions in your behavior, your day-to-day activities? What are some of the what moral judgments informs your actions and your inactions? Are you driven by modern trends, or you are driven by the need to satisfy human good and sustenance of the society? This brings us to the end of our lecture. So if you have any question or any contribution, let's hear it now. So the person who asked the question, please come up with your question again. Let's all discuss it. The question about Thomas Hobbes. Please come again with the question. Please, who asked the question about Thomas Hobbes? Whilst we wait for him, if any, who has any question? Yes, Andrew. Andrew, let's hear you.
Okay, madam, thank you. Like when we were discussing Thomas Hobbes' theory of moral and ethics,
Yeah.
we came across a portion whereby through a higher power, people are now forced to or are compelled to live by the rules society has set. And I was asking that now that we have these rules, we've given to a certain people in a higher authority, in higher power, to regulate how society behaves or society goes about our daily life. Now, those same people that we have handed power to, if they themselves we find them practicing what society frowns upon. For instance, if you look at what is happening in our country, the way the politicians that we have elected into the offices to enact laws on our behalf, to run the country, how they are now amassing how they are misappropriating our funds, how they claim that they will protect the public purse, and now the public purse is even missing. How do we go about it? How do we handle them? Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, thank you again. So we said that we have sovereign powers who come up with social contracts. So we have, in every society, we have levels of these powers. So there is a preceding power over everyone. So for instance, our politicians, it is the system that does not work as it is supposed to be, but if the system is working, the politician is bounded by the laws of the state. So you are a politician, you have been given the power to enact laws. However, you are also under the law of the judicial power. And are you getting me? So if you flout laws or you mismanage funds and cause our purse to get missing, there is a judicial power that is supposed to deal with you.
Yes, please.
You get it?
Yes.
So every sovereign power has its preceding or superior power, and it goes up and up like that. So every sovereign power has its power that oversees its actions or its contracts.
Okay.
President,
thank you very much.
You are welcome. Collins, let's hear you. Yes, Collins.
Okay, Madam, thank you for the opportunity. Okay, Madam, first off, I have two questions. My first question has to do with when you were explaining culture as a source of moral standard, you made mention of the fact that it is a pattern of behaviors and values that identifies a group of people.
Okay.
Passed on from an older generation to a younger generation. And for the sake of learning purposes, I wouldn't want anyone to attach me to what I'm about to say, actually. The issue of the LGBTQ society in our country as of now are equally fighting for their rights to, should I say, exhibit their sexual orientation.
Okay.
And I don't seem to see the country as a whole accepting that group of people to exercise their rights of being, excuse me, but gay or homophobics, simply
Exactly.
because they don't believe that it is what, like you said, the universal moral
Part.
code. So the question here is that what is right? Because right, doing the research that you told us to do the last time, I came by a word, relativism and
Mm-hmm.
emotivism. So
Mm-hmm.
if relativism explains that right is being regarded as what a person or a group of people accept as their moral code, why
Yeah.
are we not as a country accepting the LGBTQ society and we are frowning upon? That's
Okay.
my first question.
First
My
question.
second
Okay.
question, yes, my second question has to do with Socrates. As I was doing my research, one of my books that I was reading led me to an example of Socrates, the Greek philosopher. I understand that his own country killed him simply because he chose not to worship the gods of the Greeks. And he formulated his own god.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up, let me say, evangelizing the youth or winning the youth over to follow him and serve his the gods or the deities he chose to believe in. Now, the question here is, according to
Okay.
Thomas Hobbes, it was a society that came together and gave the power to this sovereign power to act based on their sample cultural behavioral patterns that has come together to form that society. So how is it that the same society that
Mm-hmm.
said that, oh, you have the right to tradition, you have the right to religion, you have the right to all these, um, end up killing Socrates simply because he chose or he decided to join a different form of association? Thank you. That's my question, please.
Thank you. Very good question. So the first one about the LGBTQ. First, you remember we discussed that every society is guided by their culture and their traditions. And the members of the society are binded by the culture or the traditions of that society. So if you belong to society A, and there we eat at 8 a.m. every day in society A, so long as you are there, you eat at 8 a.m. When you go to society B, and they say that here we don't eat at 8 a.m., we eat at 9 p.m. Once you have chosen to reside in society B, you can't say that where I'm coming from, we eat at 8 a.m. Intermediate 8 a.m. maybe. Once you have decided to reside there, you must act according to their agree per their social contract that this is our tradition. This is what we are going to live by. This is what sorry, my internet went off. The lights have just been put off here. So I was saying that if a group of people decide that this is our tradition, this is what you want to do, so long as you reside there for to ensure the common good of all the people of the society, you are binded by that tradition. So for LGBTQs, until, as I said, until our culture to go through that process of change, for us to get to that level where we will change the culture and therefore change that moral standard. So long as the people can social abide by this behavior, they will have to live by it. And the process of change is all part of their activism that is going on. It is all part of the change process. Collins, are you getting me?
Yes, madam, I'm getting you clearly.
So it is all part of that change process. So until we get there, we are all binded by the conditions of the land or the society. And that is what forms the basis of our moral standards.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, madam, I get you, please.
Good. So it is not about an individual saying that this is me, this is what I want to do, so leave me to be myself. No, you are in a society and your actions are binded by the social contract of that society, the traditions of that society, and the society have agreed to put this sovereign power in place. So if you decide that as for you, you want to satisfy your personal need or your personal desires, so you will flout that social contract, the sovereign power will come after you.
Okay.
Please, do you understand?
Yes, madam, I get you, please.
Okay. Now, to your second question, you were talking about why they will turn about to kill Socrates, who is striving to serve his own religion. Is that right?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, it's right to
I think
religion.
the first answer answers it as well. I mean, as a society, if we have come up with our social contracts that this is the God we are worshiping, we expect that for the common good of the entire we will all abide by practice cannibalism. They used to practice cannibalism. There, or I think some they used to. They were the indigenous people used to practice cannibalism. That is there. You can't come to Ghana and say you want to practice cannibalism. We don't do that in Ghana. The sovereign powers here will come after you. So it is all about conforming to the traditions and the customs and the social contract that has been put in place. That is the basics of all the argument. So wherever you find yourself, there are social contracts there. What all the propounders are saying is that, or especially Thomas Hobbes is saying is that if you don't want to get into trouble with the sovereign powers, just go according to what the social contract stipulates, and we will all be at peace. Please, am I making sense?
Yes, madam, I get you, please.
Okay. Achumbe.
Yes, madam.
Please, let's hear you.
Mine is not a question, but a suggestion concerning what Brother Andrew said about governance, giving a sovereignty power to people and they misuse it, as in head of governance, and citing Ghana as an example, how our politicians are. I suppose the people we select per our governance system is democracy. You vote them. You say this person should come and rule, and you have the power every 4 years to change. You have the power through your constitution, your criminal law, to correct the person. And no one is above the law, as the law itself states. The supreme one is the constitution. So if you, a president, kills, they will not say because president goes for free. So Hobbes' theory of giving the sovereignty power to a group of people or a person still stands that we should give the power to one person, and he will make sure that the will of all the people beneath are taken care of.
Taking care of, exactly.
So whether you are top there, the power is with you for you to say something to the down. But that does not mean they are corrupt, they are doing this. You can send them to court if you have evidence to that effect.
Evidence. That's right.
Yeah, I suppose it seems sometimes like the politician is corrupt, everybody is complaining. Nobody is just a hissy and big. I suppose that's how it is, but not to the Thomas Hobbes' theory of sovereignty power. It really works for the better good of everyone in the community or society
Okay.
or a country.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Salasi, can we hear you?
Yes, mine is also like a contribution or addition to backing of moral ethics. We having the right to do what our culture tells us to do concerning the LGBTQ, whatever is going on. Per what you told us, yes, per what you told us, it's very clear. It's very clear that we don't accept our culture, our ethics, and our moral. Everything doesn't accept uh, all this LGBTQ association here, but it seems they are trying to fight it. So I don't know if they are trying to fight it, and by the way they are fighting it, if it comes clear, then I'm not sure studying this thing will really help us, because what you are saying is the truth. Studying this thing is also the truth. It makes sense though, but and they are aware, but they are fighting it, and I don't know why. So I
Which
don't know.
I don't know why.
Yes, you also don't know why. Oh God,
Which I don't know why.
you don't know why? Okay, then we will keep it like that, because it seems people don't want to stand behind the truth.
Okay.
What you are teaching is the truth, though. Yeah, our culture doesn't
Thank
support
you.
that thing. So,
All right.
Samuel. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you to Felix. Yes, Felix, let's hear you. Yes, Felix. Please, if you've asked your question already, put down your hand so that we can tell those who still have questions to ask. Vincent, let's hear you. I think that's exactly what I said. That because things have changed in our modern world, it has affected our moral actions and our moral judgments. And I gave several examples to back each of the points that I raised. So for instance, I said that formerly sending information across alone was a big problem. You have to use the telegraph and number your words because you were charged according to the word. But now sending information across is so free that someone can actually record insults and post it on social media against another person. Who in their right senses will do this? It is just because society or the changing trends in society have given that freedom, and that is why people get to act that way. So if we should link this to Thomas Hobbes, until we create a social contract that will guide, for instance, our actions surrounding the changing trends in technology, people will continue to act in certain ways and manners that will flout the rights of other people over and over again. Do you get the link? Okay. You are welcome. Ernest.
Yes, madam, I also wanted to contribute a little to what we are actually learning.
Please, I'm listening.
Yes. What I wanted to say is that we can actually see from concerning both in politics in Ghana and then even concerning the LGBTQ, we can all see that given the power to, let's say, the government right now, it's something like we are all in pain in a way. But so far as we have given them the power, we can't take that power from them until the 4 years is like reaches. And we are going to go through the hard time until we take them off. There is nothing we can do about it because the constitution has said that. Also, when it comes to the LGBTQ whatsoever, looking at all this, because of our morals and ethics we have in this country, some churches have taken themselves off the international bodies which has accepted to go with that. Talking of the Methodist Church and some other churches, they have taken themselves from the international body who has accepted to go and then, let's say, bless those people who want to go into those kind of marriages. Looking at Ghana, some of them have taken themselves out of it. So morals and ethics, I think it begins all the way from our foundations. It is a strong foundation for every human. So I think what we're talking about is a very important topic. Thank you very much.